So I'd like to go into a little bit of the aleph base of what is basar b'chalav, what is the issur of eating milk and meat. So we mentioned last week. So last week we discussed 6 hours waiting and all that. This week maybe a little less practical for halacha because we generally don't eat milk and meat cooked together. It usually doesn't happen.
Isn't it together? Halacha is not eating.
So we said like this. It says 3 times in the Torah, not to cook a goat together with its milk, and it says 3 times in Torah. So we learn out 1 time to tell us you're not allowed to cook, and 1 time to tell us you're not allowed to eat it, and another time to tell us you're not allowed to have any hana from it. You can't have any pleasure from the basar and chalav. So that's what it says in the Torah. Now, what is so? So we have 3 isurim. 1 is cooking. You're not allowed to actually cook it. Now, cooking could get a little bit complicated for us. Why? Because what would be included in the issur of cooking? For example, let's say you work in a non-kosher restaurant. What are you allowed to cook or you're not allowed to cook? Let's say, for example, you're not cooking milchiks, you're cooking fleishiks, you're cooking whatever you're making there, but they don't have separate milchik dishes and separate fleishik dishes, right? So in a non-kosher restaurant, McDonald's is not makbid on the dishes, separating the dishes.
If you don't own it, it's still a problem?
Yeah. So you're taking you're not allowed to cook, you're not allowed to do the act of cooking. So you're taking a milchik pot that was used to cook some cheese in. Then I don't know how they make their cheeseburgers, but whatever they use, clearly they use, and then you take it and you even if you're not cooking it together, you're using a pot that was used to cook milchiks and you cook fleishiks, and is that included in the issue of cooking basar b'chalav? So let's explore what this issur is and what the parameters of this issur is. Let's see if it's again, it doesn't come up every day, but sometimes it comes up. Are you allowed to cook it? So let's see. So now it says like savashal gediba chalev. So the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, how do you read the pasuk? Do you read it b'chalavimai or b'cheilavimai? It says b'chalev actually, but how do you read it? What is it? What are you cooking? Are you cooking with what?
The fat or the milk?
Fat, not a fat or the milk. Sorry. Are you cooking with the milk, or are you cooking with the chema, with the
cream?
Yeah, with the cream. With the cream, yeah. So Rashi says that Rashi and Rashi over there says that when the Torah says b'chalav, it's strictly chalav, milk, but it's not referring to the cheese or not the cheese or the butter. Why? Because that would be called tigun. That would be called frying. And the Torah says you don't cook. It doesn't say you don't fry. So Rashi seems to learn, the B'chadash learns differently in Rashi, but according to most Mefarshim, Rashi learns that the whole issur is just cooking. And cooking process is in halacha, okay, cooking process is when you have water. It cooks with water. You can have 3 types of cooking. You can have cooking, you can have something called tzli. Tzli is roasting. Roast is you're over a fire, a roast by itself. And then you could have something in between a little bit, which is called tzli keda, which is really frying, which you take a frying pan, there's no water in there. It's it just fries. So if you have 2 salads or cheese or even something which melts, but it's called tigun, that's what we call frying. So that's a different process of cooking.
You take milk and meat and fry it, should be okay.
Okay, we're discussing this. Let's go through it. So cooking means you cook with milk. Milk is soul. Milk is fluid, so it's like a water. So that's cooking. It cooks in the water. But something which is solid, it fries. Understand? Something that's solid is fried. Something which is cooked, it's cooking.
Is baking something entirely different?
So baking is also a good question.
Like in
baking,
oven?
yeah. Baking is a good question. That wouldn't be bishul either. That would be more like. That's a good question. That would be more like frying. Yeah, tzliya.
The microwave would also be no.
We'll get to microwave. But that's the question. So Rashi says it's only bishul that's aser, and it's not frying. It's not aser. So according to Rashi, if someone wants you to make them a cheeseburger, which is fried on the grill, there's no issue to make it. You could go ahead and make it. There's no issue to make it because it's not included in the issue of bishul basi b'cholov. Now, if that's true, then hu adin, you're allowed to have hana from it, because these two things go together. If it's not asa midaraisa, this is the rule. Something which is not asa midaraisa, it's not called bishul basi b'cholov. It's not asa midaraisa. The only thing that's asa is to eat it. You're not allowed to eat it. Cheeseburger you can't eat. That we're not going to allow you to have, even though it's only midrabanan. Midaraisa, you'd be allowed to eat a cheeseburger. Midrabanan, you can't eat a cheeseburger. Okay, it's a rabbinical thing. But midaraisa, you would be allowed to eat it. So anything which is mutter midaraisa, you're allowed to eat, and generally speaking, you're allowed to have hana from. You're allowed to have pleasure from. So you're allowed to sell it to a guy. You're allowed to open a McDonald's, make cheeseburgers, and sell it, and have hana from it. Right? We learned chametz and Pesach. You can't sell. You can have hana from this. You can have hana from it. So there might be other problems selling not kosher food. That's another. So if you're allowed to have a business to sell not kosher food, that's. But having hana from it would be allowed. Now there are a lot of nafkaminas in having hana. For example, the Rambam says that most isuri achila, most things which are asav achila, you're only not allowed to eat it in a way which is normal to be eaten. So, for example, a lot of the pills we eat, a lot of the medicines that people take are not kosher. A lot of the medicines are not kosher, especially if they have gelatin and other things in it. A lot of the medicines are not kosher. But the Olam relies on heter that since in itself is not roy lachila, either because it's bitter, if you take it apart it's very bitter, or because it's made down to a sawdust. It's not something which is made and roy lachila, so it's not called derech achila when you eat it. It's not the way of eating. So something which is not, it's not called an achila when you eat it, and therefore you're not doing any isser by actually eating it. Okay, eating it means you eat it the normal way it's meant to be eaten. So the Rambam says, if you mix in bitter things into it, and it becomes unedible due to the bitterness, so that's, when you eat it, that's not called derech achila, and memela, it would be mutter. Okay? That's why we rely on, people take all kinds of medication, which is not kosher, and rely on that. But there's a problem here. That's all things which are only aseh b'achila. Things which are aseh b'hana, things which you're not allowed to have hana from, doesn't apply. So the Rambam says that baseh b'cholov, which is aseh b'hana, that you wouldn't be able to eat, because that's, even though it's not considered achila, but it's considered having hana. That's the Rambam sheet.
Medication considered hana.
What?
Medication considered hana.
You're eating it.
You're not getting hana from the thing. You're getting hana from the effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But the process of swallowing something we consider hana, whether it cures you, it doesn't cure you, but that process in itself is something which we consider hana. Understand?
No.
It's a process. If I swallow something, that's considered having hana. We don't give a share. If a person eats a whole meal out of it, he's full, right? If you take your pills and eat I'm not suggesting it, but if you eat a whole meal out of it, you'll be full for that day. That's called hana.
You still could not like the taste, and you did it anyways.
Right, but that's called hana. So
you're getting benefit from it.
Yeah,
in other
benefit
ways.
from it.
And if it is after, then it's not.
Right. But hana is not necessarily pleasure. Hana is benefit.
It's benefit. It's gain from it.
You're getting something. That's why you're doing it.
Exactly.
You wouldn't do it if you weren't going to get a benefit.
Yeah. So right. So watching the Rambam is down here. Yeah, so that would be an afkamina. So if you have some kind of medication which is constitutes of basa b'chalav, now you have a bigger question. Now you have a question of whether you could actually use it. So if it's tiga, okay, now you have to decide how it's made. If it's cooked together, so then that would be an isabana. But if the way they make it is that it's not cooked, but it's actually
Combined ingredients or something.
combined in a way, maybe baked or fried or tzli or just with dry heat or something, so then perhaps you wouldn't have an isser in it.
We're still talking how pills are made?
Is a Rambam.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are others that disagree with the Rambam. Chavas Das runs the Rambam differently, and there are others that Chazanish and others that say that even basa b'chalav, it would be depends how it's made. In other words, if it was bitter from the creation, if it was made regular basa b'chalav and then you added something bitter in it, then you wouldn't be able to have pleasure from it. But if when you made it also to begin with, you have to remember, we'll get to this soon, that the meat is mutter and the chalav is mutter. It's just a combination which is also. So if at the time you made the yisr, at that time it was already not roy la'achila, it wasn't something which was edible at the time it was created, then even the Rambam would agree that you would be able to have hana from it. So if you eat it shaloi kederach achila, that would be a makam lahater.
You mean both or just one?
What?
You mean both or just one?
What do you mean both?
If one is roy lachil and the other one was not from the tchila, is that okay to eat, or is it only the one that was you made?
Well, usually it's a one pill, so usually they're both considered.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
meat and other stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Anybody here who has had children in the medication, I remember the liquid. You want banana, strawberry, whatever the flavor.
That's roy lachila. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the pills which are bitter.
Well,
If
the
you chew
medication is bitter without the flavor.
it's not so bitter. It's edible. It's not so bad.
Well,
You can see it. There are some foods which are a little sharp side of life.
You're
The
drinking
liquid
it.
medication is usually not considered bitter. It's only the
Yeah.
stuff that you wouldn't bite into.
so it's got to be a solid, not a liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got swallowing a pill. not
Okay, let's see like a few
drinking it.
nafkaminas which would come out, which could be relevant to halacha l'maisa. But the point being that something which is asa midaraisa, you're not allowed to cook, you're not allowed to do the process of bishul, and you're not allowed to even have hana from it. Something which is mutter midaraisa is only asa midrabanan, you're allowed to have hana from it, and you're allowed to cook. So the question again is, what's considered the process that's asa midaraisa? What's the process mutter midaraisa? It's a tremendous machlokes. There are those that hold Bicharash and others that say, not like Rashi, you can't fry, and you can't roast, you can't bake, all considered bishul daraisa, and that's basa b'chol daraisa. But there are others, many that say, no, Rashi is pretty clear, and therefore roasting or frying would be actually mutter. It would actually be mutter. You wouldn't be allowed to eat it midrabanan, but it would actually be mutter. There are those that say, well, roasting is considered bishul because by the Korban Pesach it says bishul was our Pesach. It says Balayla Zens, and we know you roast the Korban Pesach on a fire. So tzli is considered bishul, but frying, Rashi says, is not bishul. It's a little chiddush. Roasting is cooking because the Torah calls it cooking, but frying we don't consider cooking, which is a little bit strange. The Aruch HaShulchan says the reason why we don't consider it cooking because the Torah says with cholav, with milk. And milk is something which is cooked with. Because milk is a liquid, so that's considered cooking. But anything that, even though cheese and everything is also asur, but it's not explicit in the Torah when it uses the process of cooking. It discusses milk, so therefore it's only cooking but nothing else.
The Issachar rights applies to any meat whatsoever available to trade.
Oh, we're gonna get to all the meats. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. So the question comes. I think we made it once discussed it before. You're going to the golfing, wherever you're going, to Toronto Blue Jays, wherever, and you're having a party, and you want to, you're having the company's having a game, okay, having a night out, and you're invited, and they're flipping burgers, and they ask you, could you take over the stand for a couple of minutes while I take my shot, and the question is, could you take over the stand for a couple of minutes while I take a shot? So the first thing, so it gets into these shilas. If is tigun, or is that considered an issa? Assuming there's cheese on there, is tigun considered an issa? That's one shaila. And this is a big machlokes. Halacha, tigun is frying. In this case, you're barbecuing, which is similar.
Which is tzli.
It's more tzli, yeah.
When they put the cheese on.
The cheese on. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know.
It makes sense. You make a hamburger. It's not a mix with milk. So what would the shiloh be?
I have no idea.
You don't.
They do it before or after?
Milk.
Yeah.
They put it after.
They put it on acid
Yeah.
to cook.
You
So
don't-
it'll melt slightly into the meat, but it's not cooked
Not
in the
cooked.
same.
Oh, so you have a second shiloh. The second shiloh we're going to get to is like this. The second shiloh is once it's cooked, is there an issa bas b'chalav? Okay, you have your meat is cooked, but the cheese isn't cooked. You put the cheese on. So is there a problem? You're working McDonald's. Is there a problem to put on the cheese? It's already cooked. The burger's already cooked.
And then you throw the cheese on.
And then sure, that's shiloh number 2. Okay, we'll get to that. I can go for that in a minute. And shiloh number 3 is which meat is part of this Isser of Basa B'chalav. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, which I forgot to bring in Shulchan Aruch here, but it's fine. It says in Shulchan Aruch like this. Well, first of all, it's important to know that even kosher meats, the only Isser Basa B'chalav is on behema meat. But oif or chaya, we make a deer is a kosher chaya. There's no isim in Torah basa b'chalav. We hold it's machlokes in the Mishnah. There's no isim in daraisa basa b'chalav by oif or by chaya. Surprised, huh?
Well, that's a real chiddush.
How did they learn
Came
that
just in
out?
time.
That's an eye opener.
How did they
About
learn
to have
that
some
out?
deer parmesan tonight.
Okay, but midrabanan it's us.
Where is that learned from? Sorry.
The Gemara learns it out.
From which word?
That's funny.
Gedi is a behemoth.
That's funny because we're told that the reason you don't have basa v'chalav is, well, it's a chak really, but that
It's a chayk.
we're supposed to be balei rachamim and so on. So what's the chilek, whether it's a chaya, whether it's a behemoth? I mean,
Chassidish blood you have.
what's
I know
that?
you're Chassidish guy. Rachamim. The milk is rachamim. The behemoth is din.
Well, there's another pshat.
Can't mix the two together. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
See that? He's Chassidish guy. It's a chayk, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it's just it's funny that
That doesn't fit in. That
chilek
reason
between
doesn't-
chayas and behemoths.
Chai would be worse, you'd say. It's more. Yeah. But the Raisa, it's only a behema with milk, but not a chaya or a knife. Now midrabanan it's also, but again we said anything which is also midrabanan is only also to eat, but there's no issa to cook, and there's no issa to have hanafim.
What's the definition of a cow, goat, sheep?
Domestic animal is a behema.
So it's domestic.
Yeah, I mean that's a loose translation, but that's a giraffe or a deer or a question is a buffalo is a question. Buffalo is a question if it's
Game meat.
if
Game
it's
meat
a
is
chay or
chaya.
behema. It's a
No,
shiloh.
people domesticated elk, buffalo, and
Yeah, so
But
buffalo is
it's not domesticated.
the Shulchan Aruch brings down buffalo is a shiloh, it's a chay or behema. It's a suffix.
I can see by oath.
Is it not?
Oath doesn't nurse its young, so it doesn't give milk. But the behema and the chaya do.
Gives milk, yeah.
So, I mean, I could see making the distinction between oif on one hand and behemoths and chayas, but the distinction between behema and chaya, that's learned out from the pasuk
Yeah.
because it says
So it's out of
gedi.
plastic, yeah.
My Rebbe used to make that distinction all the time.
So that doesn't have it. Now, there may be, you don't get a job yet at McDonald's because there may be an Issa D'Rabbanan as Marasayan, people don't know what kind of meat you're cooking and baking and all that kind of stuff. But that's more of a Marasayan issur. But Mikra Din, there's no issur. So if the burger is on the stand is deer meat, you're good. Now the question is like this: it says in Shulchan Aruch, but it says in Shulchan Aruch that the
What if it's mostly sawdust?
Ein basa b'cholav noyeg ela b'basa behema tahira im cholav behema tahira. So in other words, it has to be a kosher animal. So if you have an animal that's not from the kosher animal, for example, what do they have? Bacon. It's not a kosher animal. So it's not a kosher animal. There's no issa basa b'cholav. Now you can't eat it anyways, obviously, because it's not a kosher animal. But there's no issa to cook it with cholav. There's no issa to cook it, to bake it, and there's no issa to have hana. There's no issa hana from it either, since it's not asa draisa. So that's the halacha. There's no basa b'cholav noig. The basa has to be from a kosher animal, and the milk has to be from a kosher animal. But if either one is not from a kosher animal, that's not an issa of basa b'cholav at all. Now there's a question. Why not? Is it a drasha or is it a halacha of einis or chalalisser? But Mikra Din is a drasha, and therefore there's no basa b'cholav on that whatsoever. Okay. Now you're gonna ask me for eating it. What's the difference? There happens to be a very big difference. And I ask you, I want to explain one thing before we go further. The uniqueness of basa b'cholav is that there's nothing here that's really yasser. You have meat that's mutter and you have milk that's mutter. Now you cook it together. So let's say, how much do you have, every Isser Torah, how much do you have to eat in order to be Oifer? Kazayis. So, do I need a kazayis of basar and a kazayis of cholav? No. I can take a half a kazayis of basar and a half a kazayis of cholav. Together I have a kazayis. It's not a whole shayla in the Gemara, but in any case, I have a kazayis, and it's also because what happens is, they're both mitzdarif to the Isser. Right? They're both together, the basar and the cholav is aser. It's not that there's something here. What's aser here? So the basar mixed with the cholav is what's aser. So both together is aser. If I take, for example, a non-kosher animal, a behema tameya, okay, and I mix it with cholav, so only parts aser. In other words, it may have taste of the bacon inside the cheese, which would make the cheese also because that's taste of it. But in essence, you only have a chatzizayis. Let's say you only have a half a kazayis of the behema tameya, and you have a half a kazayis of cheese. I don't have a full share of issa. So when we're talking about basa b'cholav, we're talking. There's a unique aspect here that the basa and the cholav together create an issa. And this has a lot of ramifications halacha, which we will see actually. It has ramifications halacha. So
what about artificial flavoring? Because you can get kosher bacon bits. So now you're introducing a flavor.
Well, it's not bacon.
It's not bacon. But if a lot of times what we're doing is talking about the flavor that's creating, where's the
no, it has to come from something.
But it has to be real.
Yeah,
It can't be artificially
so it's not
created.
coming from something that's usher, then
Right.
it's come from this. So when we're talking about basa and cholav, we're talking about putting two things together and creating something new, which is usher. And for this reason, the Torah says like this: it's a drasha that the only isser basa b'cholav is created if it would have been usher anyways. It would have been mutter anyways. But if it would have been usher anyways, it's not included in the isser basa b'cholav. So here's the deal. Okay, ready? Where am I going with this? I'm going with this like this. We have a concept. Okay, I cook my milk and my basa and cholav together. I cook the cheese together with the milk, with the meat. Okay, and then this basa and cholav falls into my pot of soup. Okay, falls into my pot of soup. It's a very common. You're going to say, "Why am I saying these crazy shilos?" Because it's very common shilos. Okay, you're cooking.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time, right? You find out.
Your cheeseburger falls in the soup.
You're stirring your pot of your chicken soup, and it falls onto your milchig French toast. Okay, it splatters on. But what happens is like this: the meat that went on the milk Well, the milk that went on the meat will answer that piece of meat. Okay, it will answer that piece of meat. I have, let's say, some milk splattered on a piece of meat, and it made it possible chalav it's aser. Okay, it's less than shishim, right? It could be bottle. If you have, it has to be derech bishul aser Torah. So in other words, everything we know is 1/60th. That's cooked because 1/60th gives time. If you want to give taste to something, it has to be at least it has to be 1/59.
Wait, so if I accidentally spill milk on some raw ground beef, that's not part of the cheshbon?
Eh?
I have some ground beef that I'm going to make some hamburgers with,
Right.
meatballs, whatever it is. And then somebody in my house accidentally spilled
Spilled
some
milk on it, and now you bake this meat.
I haven't done anything with it yet. As long as I don't cook it, I'm good.
Well, yeah. What do you can do with it if you don't cook
I'll
it?
rinse it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Give it
but,
to your
but
dog.
let's say you cook it. Okay, let's say you cook that ground beef now. You didn't realize till after you cook it. Now that meatball you made that has the milk in it, that milk is enough milk to give taste into the meatball.
Right, okay.
If it wouldn't be enough to give taste, there's no issa b'asar b'chalav. It's
Like a
bottled.
drop, if it would splash a drop.
It has to be at least 1/59 parts, otherwise it wouldn't give taste. There's derech bishul aser Torah. It's actually a drasha, but
But I was just trying to clarify that without bishul, there's no issur.
yeah, there's no issa.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Now, midrabanan, you can't eat it without bishul. Midrabanan, we don't eat at the same time milk and meat,
I
right?
understand.
But there's no ism in that Torah unless it's cooked together. Now you take this as a good case. You take this meatball, you made a meatball that had milk fell into it, and you baked it. Okay, I baked it. Now I have a meatball. Now, this meatball falls into a soup. I don't know what meatballs in soup, but this meatball falls into a soup. What's with the soup? Could I eat the soup? Okay, what?
If it's more than 60,
Well, it got to be more than 60 because how much milk is in the meatball? A little bit of milk in the meatball. Now, there's no 60 against milk in the meatball, but in the whole soup, you know how much is in there? You have a piece of chicken. Milk fell on a piece of chicken, and I cooked that chicken. Now I put that chicken in the soup. So the question is it going to ask my soup? So we have a concept, okay, called chanan. Okay, that's an abbreviation of chaticha nas nevela. The piece becomes like a nevela. That since the Torah says you have basar and you have chalav, if I eat this thing, it's a kazayas. I get malchus. It's a kazayas. So that basar and that chalav are mitzaref together to make iser. We don't look at it like the chalav is less than 60. It's together like one piece of nevela. It's like one piece of chazer. This created piece is now a shtik iser. Now it falls into my soup. Now I got to get 60 against the whole piece. That's not so simple anymore. So
Why not
this
the
is
milk?
very relevant. This
Why not
concept
just
in
the milk?
halacha is something which takes us throughout the entire Hilchos Basar B'chalav and Teruvos. Okay?
Why is it not just against the milk in the meatball?
Because that meatball became a piece of thing that's
And
usr.
if it was 1/60th in the meatball,
It never became usr.
and then it became
It never became usr. But once it became usr, we look at it like a piece of chazer. That piece is usr. Now you could argue, you could say, well, you be a lamdan. You could say it like this. You ready? That's very nice. Of course, if I have milk in the meat and I have it gives taste to the meat, so that meat is a piece of chazer and I can't eat it. But once I cook it in the soup, what happens is the milk starts getting diluted and it spreads over the whole soup, and I don't even have in the meatball anymore a taste of the milk. Okay? In other words, you're right that initially that piece of meat was usher, and now it's in the soup. But why do I say now I need 60 against the whole piece of against the whole meatball? Say that milk that was in the meatball got diluted. I don't have any more 60 in the meatball. So now we got to reevaluate our original issue and say that the whole thing is mutter. I can even eat the meatball.
But if the idea is the whole meatball is an isser, then
Right.
it's the tom of that meatball.
Right.
if it's more
I
than
don't
60.
care about the milking, it's the
Yeah.
tom of the meatball.
That's right.
I would suggest.
That's the answer.
Oh,
But there's two points in this. First of all, we don't assume that the milk went out. We don't assume it went out.
We don't care about the milk anymore.
We don't care. But if I can know that I took out the milk, it should sort of take off the issa
It's
originally.
retroactively.
Right.
But that doesn't work, does it?
So that doesn't work. That's rule number one. That doesn't work.
Right.
You can't take out the milk from the meatball once it's usher. And two, I don't need to taste the milk anymore. I just have to taste the combination of the milk and the meat.
Although if you had a big vat of soup, you would have batul b'shishim. Then your soup,
Okay,
your soup may be
that would
okay.
have to be decided if you have shishim against the meatball. But it's a different discussion.
is it true when the milk is separated from the meatball, it still retains its entity of basar v'chalav? Is that true?
Yeah, because the milk also picks up from the meat. taste of the
It
meat.
always retains that
Retains,
identity
yeah,
of basar
yeah.
v'challah.
Yeah, the Gemara calls this efshel l'soichtei aser. Even if you can remove it, it's still aser. You can separate it, there's still parts of aser.
And that's because we're still saying the taste of the meat is always retained. In the,
That could be a pshat, right? It's
Oh.
retained, or it could be
But-
like you're saying.
Oh.
Once the Torah made it
That's
aser, it's
a-
aser. Right. But that's a debate for the lamdanim, what the pshat. But it's clearly in the Gemara, it's clearly that it's aser.
So, Rabbi, when you get a panicky call from a caterer and just made a mistake and there's 250 people waiting to be fed, and is there room to be...
So you gotta really learn the whole basar v'challah. I'll give you an example. Okay, it happened here in the Koil a couple of years back. Okay, a guy. Okay, without going to all the halachas, we're gonna have to learn. But it took, they say in any yeshivish place, everything is what we call Polish parif. Everything is like treif, really. It's like a dorm in the dormitory. I wouldn't use anything coming out of that kitchen. So the guy cut the onion with the milchiga knife.
Okay.
Okay, the halacha is that the onion picks up the taste of the milchiga knife. Okay, picks up the taste, so we consider a milchiga onion. And he promptly chopped it up and put it in the cholent, which had meat in it. And it cooked, and then realized what happened. And now the question is the cholent good for the kiddush or not good for the kiddush?
That would be bottom of the shishim. I mean, how much taste do you pick up from a knife?
So l'chayr should be batal v'shishim, but we have to learn. Do we say chanan? Do we say the concept that the whole onion becomes like a piece of chalav? Now, according to what we learned here, no, it's only by basar b'chalav it comes. But many Rishonim hold that you say chanan. You say chanan by other things. So
But it
this
was
is a
cold,
discussion.
right? It's cold when you chop it.
It's still.
No,
cold,
it's
but
not,
it's sharp.
no.
Onion is
Onion's
considered
considered hot.
I just consider it sharp, and it picks up the taste of the.
It's the same as a
milk.
hot onion.
So there happens to be a Mordechai halacha that discusses this, whether we consider the entire onion to be considered full with chalav, even though you don't see it, or not. Okay? So
Wouldn't there also be an issue, is there a not in there as well? Issue of not as well?
no,
Right.
No. Only
Not-
only through a kli.
Only, oh, I see. And the knife is not considered.
No, because you mean because of the knife. You're right. Because
Right.
it's charav, because it's sharp. That takes away the knife. No, that's a good point.
Uh-huh.
Even though it goes through the knife, it takes. We're gonna have to learn about all this,
Right.
but it takes away the knife. Anyways, these shahs come up all the time.
Well,
These shahs come up all the time. But in the most severe case would be such a case where the milk connected with the meat first. That sort of knocked out the whole milk and meat, and then it's chanan. The whole thing becomes a piece of isser, and then you throw it in. So you have, getting back to where we started from over here. In the case where you have a basar tameh, you have your bacon and you're cooking it with milk, okay? So there, it doesn't become basar b'chalav. So if it would fall into a pot, you would only need 60 against the
milk.
bacon.
Okay.
Right. It depends on milk shot of flesh in a pot. If it falls into a milk or parav or something, so you would only need 60 against the bacon, not against the meat or anything else, because there's no concept of chanan. It's not osir. It's only kosher meat with kosher milk that has the concept of that it becomes a piece of isser. Okay.
Did you have the cholent or not?
did you have the children?
Everyone wants
And did it taste?
It tastes like good milk. You know?
Turns out it was a part
We'll
children anyway.
have to get to this as we get further into it, but I made them remove whatever onions they had there to try to.
I was once by Sheva Brothers, and they put in the cholent in tinfoil balls, which I thought were canoe, and up there was fish.
Fish, yeah.
But it was in wrap. It
Yeah.
was wrapped. Does that?
That's a
what
good
would you do?
shayla. Yeah. We have to learn about fish and meat. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay.
You got enough trouble so far.
So, okay, but that's just giving the basic idea. That's the halacha. Now, but that's only on basar tameh. But what's most common is in a non-kosher restaurant is they have basar nevela. It's cow's meat. It's just they don't
Right, we'll
they don't
shecht
shecht it. They don't shecht it. So if they don't shecht it, so it's a nevela. It's called a nevela, and a nevela we can't eat. But that is technically could be basar b'chalav. Just you have a question of isur chalal isur. Okay. In other words, you know what isur chalal isur is? If you have something that's already usr, another isser can't come on top of it. Okay, so the question is, do we say ein isser chal isser?
So it's immune from basar v'chalav because it's a rebellion.
So there are two issues here. So some say it's definitely basar. So what would nafkamina? You can't eat it anyways. Nafkamina would be if you can't have hana from it. Right, hana from it. So in other words, a lot of these pills we're talking about, which we said that maybe if it's basar v'chalav you can't have hana from, but here you have something to argue that it's not basar v'chalav because maybe it's nevela and ein isser chal isser, so it wouldn't have it. Now,
chances are it isn't available. Not going to pay more for a shot that's more green.
so you wouldn't be allowed to cook it. You wouldn't be allowed to cook it because you're not allowed to cook basar b'chalav, and it's cow's meat, so there's issur of cooking basar b'chalav. The question is whether when you eat it, are you over the issur of achilas basar b'chalav or only achilas nevela, and are you allowed to have hana from it? So the Rambam says a chiddush. Let's just explain this a little bit. Pashat, you would say there should be an issur because we hold that issur moisef is chal. In other words, an issur can't fall on another issur. If you have something which is ready usur, it doesn't get a double issur on it. But if the second issur is adding on something, then it would be usur. It's called issur moisef. So if it's adding on something more that it didn't have the first time with the first issur, then it could be chal. So for example, in our case here, the nevela is usher to eat, but you're allowed to have hana from nevela. You can have hana from it. Now, you're allowed to sell it to a guy. A nevela, you're allowed to have hana from. Now, it becomes basar b'chalav. So on that nevela, you can't have hana. So you're eating an isser. So anytime you're eating an isser, it could become basar b'chalav. That's a rule in the Torah. Isser moisef is chal. So you're eating it, you can't have enough of it. You wouldn't be able to sell it. You can't sell this piece to a guy. So the Rambam, if you ask anyone in yeshiva, what's the nekuda nefla in the Rambam? The Rambam increases writes in the Parish of Mishnayos, it's called the nekuda nefla, a wondrous point, as the Rambam himself calls it. It's going on this halacha. And the Rambam says that there are svarim written on it, explaining it, debating what the concept is. But basically what he says is like this. That it depends how you view this isser. Some isser hana we view as a separate isser. So therefore, you're adding something by making it isser hana. But by basar b'chalav, the Torah doesn't say don't have hana. The Torah says lo savashal, which we learn out of achila. So hana is, the Rambam learns, hana is a byproduct of achila. It's like an expanded achila, the hana, by basar b'chalav. So the Rambam holds if the Isra Achila can't be Chal, the growth out of the Achila won't be Asr either. So therefore the Rambam says that since the Nevelo can't be Asr B'Achila because Ein Isra Chal Isra, so it won't be Asr B'Hana either. That's the Rambam. It explains Isra Moisef is only if you're adding on a bigger Isra. But if it's the Iker Isra is the same Isra Achila, it just expands it to Hana. So that like it doesn't start off in the first place, and it doesn't become asa, and it can actually benefit. You can have enough from it. So what would come out from that is that if you have your nevela, which most not kosher animals are nevela, not kosher companies are nevela, so if that's mixed with chalav, according to the Rambam, you would be allowed to have hana from that. You'd be allowed to cook it, but you're allowed to have hana. So from the cheeseburgers, you'd be allowed to have hana from it. You can't cook it, but you could sell it. You could have hana because according to the Rambam. Now there are those that argue on the Rambam that it's also many argue on the Rambam, but according to the Rambam, it wouldn't have an isra hana. There is a big problem here also, which is ha'tenach the meat. But what about the chalav? Why shouldn't the chalav become basar b'chalav? In other words, the meat part was already asr, but the milk was never asr. So let the milk become now basar b'chalav, and that you can't have hana from.
That's a two-part thing. That doesn't make any sense.
What?
It's two parts. What do you mean just the milk is going to become? There are two halakim here. I mean, you're not going to say, oh, there's one ingredient, so
very good. Excellent. It's one entity. Basar b'chalav can only be asr if you're being machadish and isur on both parts. But if you can't have one part, the chalav gets the isur and the basar doesn't get the isur, that can't be. You can't have a basar b'chalav like that.
How is basar and chalav chal on nevela? You said the only way it can work is if both things are mutter. So I understand that nevela is only asr b'achila, but it's still usher. So how is basar v'chalav?
Chal on it.
Yeah, how's it going to be chalak? I don't understand.
Because it's moisef isu. It's moisef isu hana.
It's more
So it's usher now for two reasons.
It's got an extra issue.
Extra isu. So it's usher because now it's in the vela, and it's usher because it's basar b'chalav. You can have such a concept.
But it's only, it's very circular. It's only an isser, it's only a moisef isser if you've got an isser of basar v'chalav. So you're saying, okay, now you got an additional isser here in basar v'chalav, but it doesn't even get off the ground really because it's already
usher.
It's already usher.
Yeah. So if you hold isser moisef, the isser can be chal. It doesn't bother me. It's already usher. So it's usher now for two reasons. That's normally we hold it. It's a moisef, so now you look at it like it wasn't usher. In other words, it could be usher for two reasons.
So now you can't have no
Right,
anymore.
right. But the Rambam holds that no, since the Isra Noah is built off the Isra Achila, so you don't look at it like that, and it's not chalim. There'll be a big nafkamina la'alocha. There's a very big nafkamina la'alocha. It's very relevant actually. And many, if you have a product which is basar b'cholav, a non-kosher animal, not non-kosher animal, but a kosher animal that's in a vela. They used to feed, it's Gus the veal, they used to feed the animals. A lot of the animals, they used to feed them basar b'cholav. They would make a concoction out of basar and cholav together and feed it to the animal. And the question is whether you're allowed to have pleasure from that. In other words, are you allowed to
It's not cooked.
eat the veal?
But it's not cooked.
What?
Right, the concoction, I assume, is not
It
cooked.
was cooked together.
It was
It was
cooked.
cooked together, then it fed to the animals. So there's a big discussion. In other words, many of the cases that are relevant of basar b'cholav in the non-kosher world is all basar nevela. So the question is there an isra hana on it?
How do we paskin on that?
How do we paskin on that? It's a shaila. How we paskin on that? It's a shaila. The Rambam holds it's mutter, but others argue on the Rambam.
So, this would also be an issue. You worked at like a zoo or an aquarium or something like that.
Right. You want to feed it to the animals. So this is a very big question.
You
don't have to work in a zoo.
Yeah, and your pets.
used to be a
Yeah,
visitor.
pets. You want your dog food as a dog food. You can have enough from it. It's a very, very relevant animal, relevant shaila. So
even as an employee, you'd have a problem because you're getting paid to work there.
Or a visitor at the zoo. You don't even have to work there.
It's not you're a zoo. Well, if you're a visitor, what kind
yeah,
of,
he brings us down.
what kind of a know you having from it?
Then you're feeding them food.
What's good for
It's giving them hana. Why you're doing it because you're enjoying it.
So what's the halacha l'maisa? What's the halacha l'maisa? So the Dogel Mevava says, the Noid Yehuda says that if you're soymach on the Rambam, b'mokum hefsid, lo hifsid. There's a big machlokes whether you can rely on the Rambam, and he says if you rely on the Rambam, b'mokum hefsid, lo hifsid. That's what the Dogel Mevava says, but I think others say that unless it's a real tremendous hefsid, you shouldn't rely on the Rambam. Like a real serious hefsid, one shouldn't rely on this Rambam. But let's say you have another sniff lahakel. In other words, let's say this basar b'cholav wasn't cooked together, but it was roasted together, or baked together, or another form. So then you already have another heter because it's not considered asur b'hana, it's not a real basar b'cholav, and it's a machlokes. Plus this, there would be more of a reason to be lenient. So again, you have to always have the whole picture in mind. In other words, this is a very relevant question.
Is that like your cholent? Or
No,
something different?
That's
No.
cooked.
That's cooked.
It's cooked. It's
Cholent
cooked.
is actually cooked.
So if you have another
This is
heter,
cooked.
then there might be what to rely on. But just to rely on this itself is very difficult. It's very difficult to rely on just this Rambam itself. This is the Afkamina they would have. Someone brought something up I was going to say, I forget now. Okay, so that's one shaila. What? Yeah, so pet food, as I say, pet food is made from basar b'cholav. So this would go into the shaila. You find out how it's made. Find out how it's made.
How's a person supposed to do that, then?
You call a company. You ask them how it's made. How it's made. You find out.
That's what people do. They call a company.
I don't know.
You read the ingredients.
There's no hechsher on the pet food.
Ask your dog.
Well, I checked.
Now-
I know, for instance, my dog food, it's kosher, but it's chametz. So I can't have it.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
Actually,
So-
second that
How do you know it's
I was
kosher?
Huh?
It has that actual extra?
No,
You look at the
no, but
ingredients.
They give a
I
half
had
shore.
a discussion with the vet about, was it about Pesach? I don't know.
Okay, I'm just going to end with one point on this,
Kosher
that
or
the hour's
it's
late here.
full of a bus?
That this heter is only, even according to the Rambam, this heter is only to have hana from it. But to cook it, everybody holds it's aser. So the place can bring a shaila. I don't know how relevant today with our modern day candles, but the old candles were made out of fats.
Yeah.
And if sometimes they were made out of fats of animals, and sometimes they were mixed in, sometimes butter got mixed in. So the question is, are you allowed to light that candle? Because by lighting that candle, you're burning basar b'chalav. This is a shaila. And the shaila was brought down, the Pesach Shur brings down a shaila of the Ner Chanukah. You're not allowed to have anor from Ner Chanukah. So maybe there's no isser of lighting the candle. You're not having anor from it. But the question is, are you cooking it? Is there isser of cooking? Cooks together, again, the basar b'chalav. So even though the fats are probably from a nevela, so, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to have the isser of basar b'chalav to cook it. So the question is really twofold. Is that called cooking, because it burns up and goes to smoke and comes out? Is that cooking? Is that called just destroying it? That's one question.
But you could say you're getting enough.
Yeah, the place can discuss that.
You are getting it. El only roast something.
That's the only reason we were doing it.
Yeah. But is that called cooking?
Right.
Or is that, and another question is, which we have to get into, we're not going to have time to get into this week, is ein bishul achar bishul, something which is previously cooked. Is there another, is to cook it again? And that we'll have to get into next week.